Hi there, it's Laura, Scrap Addict here, and I'm doing a quick video for you on how you can emboss and add layers to your embossing to kind of make it a more interesting project. Add depth and texture. So here's an example of, I used this embossing folder, and this is an example of the item that was embossed without any ink, anything, just plain embossing, and looks great, adds some fun texture. But if you go to the next step, which is you take the embossing folder and ink it before you do that. So you just basically take your ink pads. I love the Distress ink pads by Ranger because they are real wet and they'll stay, I mean, like I could leave it sitting there for several minutes and it wouldn't dry right away. And you also can mix the inks and it doesn't really ruin the inks. It's kind of another property of the Ranger Distress inks. But you can see how I just mixed up the ink colors, and actually when I pressed it through on my cuttlebug, I got this, which is really a cool effect. You can see what a difference it makes from the first level. The next level that I often do when I'm doing this kind of thing is to add a little more depth by actually going across the top part with some more ink. So I use the ink application tools. Love those things. They're my favorite tool just about with the inks. And you just tap it and then you brush over the embossing. I use my splat mat, so I have a great surface for it, so I don't have to worry about getting anything dirty or messed up. And you just brush it, and you can see how it's creating a little more raised effect, getting in there and adding some more depth. And then I'm going to put in a little of the brown, get yet a little more, bringing that out. So it just brings it out and makes it really, really interesting. Gives it a little more, another level of depth and pop to the project. And then the next level that I often do is I'll go over it with some of the acrylic paint daubers. So this one I'm using the snow cap because I'm making this kind of like a whitewashed piece of wood, and you just kind of squeeze and press to get your paint going, and then I gently brush it over the top to add a little more color and just a hint of a whitewashed look to that raised area. A little bit will get down in between, but most of it goes into that raised area, and it just gives it another different look compared to that original. It looks a little more like a whitewashed wood. And then my last step that I like to do is actually add some glimmer mist, a real light color that is really going to be just mainly a little bit of a glimmer to it. And for some reason when you do the glimmer mist, it's actually, I'm sure because of the water in here versus this is a water ink, a water-based ink, it actually reacts with it and somehow makes the color depth look even better. So I go back in and I spray this with the glimmer mist, and you can see how it's kind of pooling and puddling those colors a little bit, so it actually makes it even more in-depth, and it really adds another layer of texture. And once that dries, it's actually a really, really pretty look. And I will show you a finished product in just a second.